Hopefully we didn't actually try the sound, but let's hope the sound works.
You can hear me? All right. Hello,
Can you
everyone.
hear us, Stuart?
Yeah, we can
I
hear
can
you.
hear
Good.
you. Yeah.
No. We're not having technical problems already, are we? Because it's...
So I'll call Amanda.
Sorry?
I'll call Amanda.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can hear you.
Oh,
Alright.
oh, good. Sorry. Good. Wait for a few more people to arrive.
So many people.
So maybe I should turn this off now again. Can we get a sound check from someone? Roy or Stuart? Can we hear you as well?
All good here.
I can hear you. No.
Oh. Good. What a bit. Want to get started?
Yeah.
All right. Over to you.
All right, welcome everyone. My name's Mark de Villiers. I work for Powercor. We acknowledge and respect the traditional owners as the original custodians of the lands and the waters on which we operate. We recognise First Peoples' unique rights as traditional owners and thank all traditional owners for continuing to care for country and their deep spiritual connection to it. We honour elders past and present whose knowledge and wisdom has ensured the continuation of culture and traditional practice. The format of this webinar is Noel Twyman, our Public Lighting Asset Manager, will first run through a presentation. If you have any questions, please submit them in the chat. When Noel is finished with his presentation, he'll attempt to answer your questions. The session is being recorded so that those who couldn't attend can watch this later. The recording will not be made public. If you would prefer not to be filmed, please turn your camera off. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. This is a little bit overwhelming, everybody. You can all see me and I can't see you. So today, what we're going to speak about is public lighting, my favourite topic. And we're just going to run through some of the discussion points in the paper that we put out, and also an opportunity to speak to some of the issues that we see arising in the coming years. Next slide, please. So one of the positives for Powercor is both councils and DTP have made a massive inroads in assisting us in transitioning from what we non-LED lights to LED lights, and so the vast majority of the blue left at the end of this next price period, we believe will be high pressure sodium. So it's sorry, it's got to catch up. So the high pressure sodium, we think by the end of the 2030, 31 should be somewhere in the order of around, I think 5,000 high pressure sodium lights that are left. And they will transition without any investment from councils, further investment, just by depreciate. They'll over their life, they'll reach the end of their life cycle and we'll change them over to LED. Was there anything else? And I suppose the other big change that's happening is Minamata continues to impact our lighting inventory. So we have somewhere in the order of around 5,000 category T5 LED light. T5 fluorescent lights, and by 2027 they'll be banned. So we won't be able to continue to relamp those lanterns, and so they'll need to also transition to LED. So that will be we'll start doing that at the start of the next price period, and then we'll complete that in Powercor before the end of 2028. We're planning to complete it within 2 to 3 years. Thank you, Mark. All right. Just something that I've seen in the last. So I've been doing public lighting for a number of years now. And particularly in Powercor, and this is a big factor in Powercor is a number of dedicated public lighting poles. So we've now the percentage of lights that are mounted on dedicated public lighting poles is around 60%, and that number keeps increasing year on year with the duplication of roads to new road projects, and also in residential estates being built both in metropolitan Melbourne, but in Geelong and outer reaches of Bendigo, Ballarat are also being impacted. The issue for us and therefore councils is we're having to replace many more poles every year, and we're forecasting that that's going to be a significant impact to our OM&R charges going forward. So we recover the cost of those public lighting poles through our OM&R, and so that's something that I suppose to take into consideration when you see the OM&R prices later on, or the discussion later on. So I suppose I just on poles again is the way that so our public lighting poles have increased exponentially over the last 40 years. So they've ramped up significantly, whereas our distribution poles are relatively stagnant. So it's they don't increase anywhere near to the same volume that the dedicated public lighting poles are. One of the positives, though, we're trying to do is to try and extend the life of these poles. So we're now staking poles, and we're looking to in the next calendar year, we're looking to stake around 50% of the poles that we believe need some additional support. And by putting that stake in, we're hoping to extend that life by 5 to 10 years. And if that's a positive, that will be a great outcome for both for us and also for councils as well, because it pushes out that capital expenditure for us. Thank you, Mark. This is something that's new this is a discussion about our central management system that we're proposing to councils. Some of you may be aware there's been a number of councils in both City Power and Powercor that have invested in smart technology, smart PE cells, and those smart PE cells enable us to have a connection between the light and our network, and tells us whether the lights are working, not working, whether they're on during the day, and the hope is that in the future that will enable us to better manage those public lights going forward. There's now in excess of around 40,000 of those installed, 40,000 of the 200,000 lights. So it's a fair chunk of the lights in Powercor, and we're looking at the opportunity to integrate this central management system that will enable both councils and ourselves to manage and maintain those lights remotely. So with this system, we would be able to potentially dim lights, to trim lights, to engage what they call constant light output, where you reduce the light output from day one for an LED light, and progressively over the life of the light increase the light to when it's reached its towards the end of its life cycle. So reducing its energy consumption from day one, but also extending its life potentially by the end of the cycle. We're hoping we've already been using this as well to help us with combating copper theft. So many of the councils have probably experienced this as well, where copper has a high value on the market, and we've had a number of locations where copper has been stolen. So what we've been able to do is use these smart cells to give us early warning that the power has been disconnected, and then we can monitor and send, contact the police in some cases, and try and catch them in the act if at all possible. So one of the concerns that many councils have had is how much is it going to cost, and what we're hoping to do, and we think we can show this is the cost of implementing a CMS. Although it's an impost on us initially, we think it's an advantage for us as a business, because we'll be able to manage our lights on your behalf better, but the cost is only a slight increment on the existing OM&R charge that we're currently charging, and yeah, I think it's a good win for both councils and for us if we can make this work. It does enable in the future the ability to be able we're looking at building protocols between us and councils where a council could actively manage their lights or work with the distributor, with Powercor, to dim the light if that's something that's required. Thank you, Mark. Next area of discussion is LED lights in decorative lanterns. So we've probably one of the first councils in Victoria. Many of our decorative lights that we maintain are fitted with 80-watt mercury vapor lamps, which we're unable to relamp going forward. So what we've done is we've installed an LED lamp, which is equivalent to that mercury vapor lamp, and essentially enabled us to extend the life of that lantern and that pole for longer than it would have normally been. So many of these lights would have already needed to be replaced. We would have had to ask councils for replacement fittings. Rather than doing that initially, we've extended by putting these LED lamps in. We've continued to maintain that existing light, made it last that little bit longer. We're hoping maybe one cycle. Ultimately, though, that lantern will reach the end of its life, and we probably need to flag with councils that have these non-standard decorative lights that aren't LED or permanently LED, is that you'd need to start thinking about how they're going to be replaced in the future. Sorry, just one other point. Sorry, Mark. There are also a CFL, compact fluorescent. Compact fluorescent is also going to be included in the banned lamps going forward, so from 26. And so we've already started replacing some of those compact fluorescent lanterns, decorative lanterns, with an LED lamp as well. To do that, we've had to make some modifications to the light, but we think it's a good outcome for councils and ourselves to keep that light going for a bit longer yet. Thank you. Solar lights, one of my compatriots' favourites. Thank you, Troy. So we've had a bit of a trial of solar light. We've dabbled a little bit, and this is an example. It's actually a council installed light, but the idea is very similar to what we're proposing. Is Powercor would potentially, and this would need to be something that the councils would need to provide some feedback whether they're interested in this, us providing a service. But the idea is it would be placed on residential roads. We're not looking to do major roads currently. The technology is not there yet, and we're not satisfied that for a major road it would. We're concerned that if the light stops working in the middle of the night, we'll place ourselves and council at risk. So we'd rather stick with what we know that we can provide, which is and we use these temporary lights already today, and it's provided a great solution in some situations. But this is more of a permanent arrangement where using our existing standard pole, standard decorative pole, a standard decorative bracket, and the lantern would be identical to what we use on our roads today, and the solar panel and batteries are all included in that one unit. Wouldn't be connected to power. It would be a standalone unit. So that's and that would essentially be an offering as a standard fitting. Yeah, thank you. All right, getting there. This is many of you, and certainly some of this probably from the City Power aspect, but from a Powercor aspect, we've certainly got a number of public lighting assets that are from legacy that are located in parks and gardens. Not so much laneways, but there are some laneways in Geelongs and Ballarats that we're unable to maintain and operate effectively. What we'd like to do is work with councils. This is, I suppose, more of an information session about how can we work with councils to transition these lights and poles, or in some cases they're mounted on walls, back to the council to operate and maintain. One of the challenges has been power in the past, and the safety concern, and that's probably our concern as well, is how do we the opportunity is to move now with LED is what they call extra low voltage power, so 12 to 48 volts. So where a council could actually have an unmetered supply and use that as a point to then connect all of their lighting up from a central point of supply without having and utilising and that way it gives council a much greater ability to use the lighting that they want to use. You can do far better decorative lighting or park lighting without having to get. One of our challenges I'm working on in laneways or in gardens is bollards and getting access, and then our trucks are not suitable to drive on those parklands. So appreciate support, and we're willing to try and work with you to help get us put a supply available to make it easier for councils to get the transition away from this traditional lighting that we've had previously. Thank you. And the last one is I suppose the one that is probably of most interest to many of you is the costs and what the R&R price is what we believe will happen in the next price period. So one of the challenges, I suppose, for all of us has been our cost of labour, our plant, our contracts are all going up. There's certainly and that's probably similar to most councils with any contracts that you're renewing. The number of public lighting poles, dedicated public lighting poles, continues to increase. So in Powercor, the volume of lights increases year on year because of the residential development, but also the number of poles increases year on year. And as I said before, it's at 60% today. In 5 years' time, it will be closer to 70%. So it will continue to rise. And our poles are now over 40 years old, and so many of those poles will need to be replaced or staked. I suppose on a positive note, though, I think we've kept the replacing with LED and moving all of our non-LED lights across to LED has given us the ability to reduce our operational costs, and we've continued to negotiate with our suppliers to get the best price. We've made some efforts to standardise on a lot of our lanterns, where in the past we've had an array of different lights we've made available for public lighting to try and reduce that down to a much more a smaller number to make it easier logistically and get better outcomes from costs, both for our contract procurement but also our material procurement as well. So going forward, we our early indication is that the nominal charge increase per light will be around 4 to 6% per annum. I think that's it for me. And over to.
Do you want to look at the chats?
Sorry?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of questions
Oh,
on the
yeah.
chat.
Questions.
All right, let me see if I can.
I'll
work
probably
it
answer
out.
the first one if you want, Noel.
Bear with me 2 secs. Hum to yourselves. The there was a question from DM. I'm not sure of names, but so the cybersecurity is a concern, certainly for us, absolutely. So the mesh system that we're connecting our smart PE cells to is the same mesh system that is a secure network for our meters, and so all of our I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Stuart, around 1.6 million meters are connected to that mesh, and part of the incorporation of a CMS will be making sure that's probably the biggest part of the project is making sure that we keep that security as watertight as it is today. From Peng, so solar lighting isn't an option today, but we see that as a possibility if there's enough interest from councils. We're hoping that it could be potentially a part of our next EDPR offering, that we go to the regulator to say this is something that councils want, that we could make available. So it would be a standard pole with a standard light and bracket and a solar panel and battery in one unit is the idea. So it's probably as early as we can get agreement. So this is from Sue. What is the impact of returning legacy lights back to councils? What costs are saved by Powercor, and how is this passed on to councils? So I'm assuming you're meaning the decorative lights of hope, Sue. I'm not sure how to share. If you want to jump in and say something, you can. But
can you hear me?
So
yeah, I'm meaning the legacy lights that you were talking about in parks.
Yes, sorry, Sue, go on.
I'm meaning the legacy lights that you were talking about in parks and laneways, and you said they'd be returned to councils.
Good question.
Can you hear that, Noel?
I don't think you can hear us, Sue.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
The impact, I suppose, for us, Sue, is as a business, we can't access
here we
these
go.
lights now. I'll let Noel continue.
No. We've got some sound now. This is good.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
What I said, Noel, was I'm meaning the legacy lights that you were talking about in terms of parks and laneways. So obviously there's a cost to Powercor at the moment to service those. So there will be a saving when you stop doing that. And how would that saving be returned to councils? Because obviously councils are going to have an associated cost to take on that role.
Well, when you say it's a saving, we just won't charge. Like it's a service we provide to councils to provide that service to that light. So if it will be reduced. It'll be reduced from our inventory. We see it as a two-way street. Like the lights, the obligations under the Public Lighting Code, talk about streets and roads. It doesn't necessarily talk about parks and gardens. And this is a legacy that's been carried forward. We're not saying we're going to walk away from it. We're offering to work with councils to transition across. Many councils embrace this, and I suppose because they want to have more ownership over it. They don't want our trucks driving over their grassed areas. We're joined at the hip, and we would like to work together rather than doing it apart. But yes, in terms of cost, there'll be a cost for council to maintain those lights going forward, but they won't be paying us. They'll be paying. They'll they'll be paying them. Yeah, they'll be doing it themselves instead of paying us. All right, I've got to get back to, sorry. This is dangerous, letting me in charge of IT infrastructure. So did I miss some? Did I have a... All right. This is from DN, from Donna, Dora, sorry. Any update on the LED upgrade of cost shared main road lights and DOT contributions required? No update. My understanding is DOT, and I think I'm not sure if DOT is on today or DTP is on today, but the cost shared roads will continue. Many of those roads have got high pressure sodium lights. High pressure sodium is still a very efficient light. It's a low cost, has low maintenance. Generally we can change a lamp and not be back there for 8 to 10 years. So it's a great light. It's not great in terms of energy consumption. We certainly can do better with LED, but in trying to keep our costs down, where a light is efficient, where we can continue to get a lamp replacements for, we'll continue to maintain those lights until they reach end of life, and then we'll replace them with an LED alternative. The alternative to that, and some councils have done this across Powercor, is you would bring forward, but that would be an application through our customer delivery group to bring forward that work. From Rebecca, where are you thinking councils will get the funds to take management of lights in parkways and laneways, etc.? I don't know. I suppose the short answer is I don't know. Often I've been approached from councils in the past that are looking to do streetscapes or doing park upgrades to parks, and at that stage they take the opportunity to move the lighting off our network and onto their own metered network. It's not a silver bullet. It just means we will work with you to try and assist where we can. But ultimately, you're right. We can't fund it for you. The lighting, we're happy to work with you in terms of the existing assets to transition those over to your ownership, so that you can utilise those existing poles if they're suitable. But ultimately, it's a decision that the council would need to make that would work for them. Changing the lamps. This is from JM. Changing from MV to LED lamps. Who covers the cost of this? Does council need to be involved, consulted at all, or the upgrade lamps when the existing ones are at end of life? So where we were able to manage those lights and moving from an MV to LED in a lamp, we cover that cost. So that's a cost that we would incur because we need to maintain that light in that location. What invariably happens, and many of you have got decorative lights will know, in the event where we can't maintain that light, we'll notify you via email that lantern needs to be replaced. Or if the pole and lantern and bracket needs to be replaced, we'll notify you of that for those decorative lights. If they're standard lights, so if it's a standard T5 or CFL, or if there are any MV80s left, that cost would be incurred by us, and we would charge replace that light with an LED equivalent. When is the CMS live? Good question. We're at a point of we're almost there. We're not quite there yet. We need one other council to. We need some. I suppose Powercor and City Power are investing a significant amount of money. If we've got agreement from our CEO to move forward. What we haven't got is the buy-in from the councils to make it happen. And so we're wanting needing to get some agreement from some councils and not wanting to call them out on this call, but we want them to buy in so that we can then feel assured that the work that we're doing is valued and they see benefit in what we're doing. So it could be as early as Q2 next year is when we're hoping to implement it, and certainly be available by the start of the next price period, which is 2026. Will the CMS give us ready access to our public lighting asset inventory? Yes and no. If there's smart cells installed, it would give you access to data. It wouldn't necessarily give you the detailed asset data that you probably receive today. But it opens a conduit between us and councils that we probably haven't had before with a CMS. So that's something that we could certainly look at going forward. Question from Josh in Geelong. Can you confirm whether the percentage increase you presented for our alumni charge allows for CMS? Yes, it does. So that already includes the cost for a CMS. And that's all of our questions. I've done well. We're a little bit ahead of time.
Do you want to see if there are any other verbal questions?
Yeah. Do you want to ask questions online while we've got some time?
I'd like to.
Yes.
Just back to that question that I asked, that Rebecca also asked about the parks and laneways, etc. I just want to make it make sense to me. So at the moment, what you said you'd do is you'd remove it from your inventory. Is there a cost that council is paying Powercor to service those lights?
So every light is charged the same, regardless of whether they're in a park or a garden or on the main road. They all have their own attributable OM&R charge. And so if that light is charged today as an LED light at $30 odd, that $30 odd per year would come off the council's bill.
Great. So basically the money that we're paying, councils are paying Powercor at the moment, will not be paid to Powercor once it's removed from the inventory, and then councils will pay that money, use that money themselves.
That's correct. Yes.
Thank you.
That's okay. Any more?
If no one else has, I've got a couple of others.
Sure, Sue, go ahead.
Have you done any consideration of using the public lighting poles for EV charging at all? Any investigation into that? There
has been some work done by the business. I'm not privy to it. I know that there's been a number of approaches. I'm not sure we've reached any position. Mark, do you?
So I know that some, I guess, EV charging providers have been exploring with us, I guess, putting their EV charger on our poles. But I don't think we at this stage are putting EV chargers on poles.
Okay.
So the short answer is no.
Yeah.
Not. Sorry, Sue.
Yeah, that's all right. And the other thing was the question that Dora asked about the I just don't understand this fully. I might wonder if you can explain it a little bit. She said, is there any update on the LED upgrades of cost shared main roads lighting and DOT contributions? How does that work? What is it? Is it that councils pay a contribution and DOT pays a contribution to the main road lights? And
Yes.
Do Powercor pay, or do you just recoup costs from those two bodies?
Yeah. So the way that cost share lighting works in Victoria, through the Road Management Act, is councils contribute 40% of the OM&R charge, and VicRoads or DTP contribute 60% of the cost of the OM&R charge. And so effectively 60 plus 40, it makes 100, and that's for every high pressure sodium light, they split the cost in that way. I think from a rollout of LED on those main roads, there's no project or no program currently planned that I'm aware of, and I'm not sure if Ling's on the call, but and she'd probably agree, is that DTP have very short arms and very deep pockets. They just don't have the cash. I think they're struggling to keep our roads up and running. To try and replace those lights to LED is a real challenge. So we, unless we have an overwhelming response from council saying please include it in our EDPR, our price review, is we will continue to maintain the existing lights as best we can, and when they reach the end of life, we'll change them over to LED. But there's no planned rollout of LED on main roads today.
And has there been any data, this might be in the report, I've only skimmed bits of it so far, has there been any data that looks at the cost of implementing LEDs versus the returns, and whether not waiting till end of life would be a better financial outcome? Because certainly would be a better environmental outcome, whether that would be a better or worse financial outcome. And that's my last question.
Yeah, sure. Short answer is probably no. There's been many councils have done this, have answered this question, and that's why they brought forward. For us to bring forward maintenance or replacement would be at the expense of councils, because we would pass that cost on through our OM&R. So we're trying to keep the price of OM&R down without, and many councils have already paid for it themselves. So for now, if we then go and include it, for the remaining lights, it's somewhat probably a little bit disadvantage to the councils that have paid for it out of their own pockets. So the idea is, if you want to do it early, great, and you get the advantage of having a lower OM&R charge and it doesn't actually benefit City Power or Powercor, sorry, other than the fact that we may be able to further reduce our operational costs.
Yeah, thanks very much, Noel. I appreciate that.
That's okay. I see someone's got their hand up. Daniel or Dora?
That was my hand. Hi, everyone. This is Dora from Colac Way. Yeah, I suppose the main road lighting question is because we've done public open space lighting and all the category P roads and all our full cost lights, but what remains is these cost shared lights. And I suppose it's just disappointing more from that perspective of emissions reductions, because they're all out across the state or even a region could be really serious emissions reduction. So if the government is serious about reducing our emissions, street lighting would be a very, relatively easy way to do that and make a big impact. And it's been just one of those, and all our lighting we've done by, I suppose, funding it up front and then gifting the assets back to Powercor, but with no grant opportunities and Vic Roads or Department of Transport not really providing that funding up front, even though the councils are quite happy to manage the projects and get it all done. It's just been one of those huge barriers, like all our other lights we upgraded now 10 years ago. So is that opportunity cost missed in the meantime, both environmentally and cost-wise? That's really been making sense. Yeah, but that's, I suppose, where my question was coming from.
And I think, and the jury's still out, but there is an environmental benefit from moving from a high pressure sodium to LED, but it's certainly not the same significant reduction that you would have got from mercury vapor to LED. So there's certainly you better bang for your buck on those lights. The high pressure sodium is actually a really efficient light, for what it does, and it's so I'm not against changing over to LED. It's just it's going to be another cost that we'd need to find the money for, but then we need to recover that through our OM&R charges, which we're trying. I suppose it's a double-edged sword. We're trying to keep the cost down for councils, because we know that's this is OM&R is something that you can't avoid, and essentially if we can do what we can to try and help in reducing the energy use, we will, but we can't go out and replace thousands of lights, particularly when some councils have already paid for it themselves as well. But
So
I
this
hear what
might
you're
not
saying.
be the right mechanism. Like, you don't want to spread the cost over to everyone. They're still better done as, I suppose, geographically bound individual projects rather than a state rollout. But even in that context, it's still very difficult to get, when it's the cost shared ones, to get the other party we're cost sharing with to come on the same journey.
I understand. I know it's many of the councils that have engaged with DTP in the past have had a difficult time because they don't have the cash, so you've had to find all of the cash up front. So I understand it's a challenge.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And in terms of the staking, can you just talk a bit more about what these stakes look like?
So there are you've probably seen them on our distribution poles, and they're quite large and quite clumbersome, and not very sightly. The ones that would go on our standard, and these are not meant for decorative poles; they're only meant for our standard poles. So you're probably familiar with the hockey stick, we like to call it. So many of those poles, we've got tens of thousands of those poles out in our estates. It's a very, I don't know if you can see my hand, but it's a small plate that sits beside the pole that slots down and it runs down the length of the pole. The failure point of these steel poles is at ground level, and so by placing a steel plate beside the pole, avoiding the electrical cable that runs into that pole, and then we band the plate to the pole, and it's like a splint essentially that runs beside the pole. Not as unsightly as the ones that go on our distribution poles. It's almost flat. You don't unless you're looking for it, you probably wouldn't notice it.
So you haven't had any issues with like amenity or placemaking or complaints about the look of them, or?
No, not at all. They've been used extensively in United Energy, and so we're carrying on that technology across to Powercor, and they have a higher hit rate. They've been able to do 60% of their poles. We're starting out at 50% in Victoria, in Powercor, just because there's some unknowns in Powercor that we want to cater for, but we're hopeful that it'll be a good outcome. Because if we can get another 10 years out of these poles, it's a win for councils and it's a win for Powercor.
Yes, and it's a win in terms of materials and reuse and recycling of these kind of things is not easy. So if you can extend its life, it's always good. It's just sometimes, the pragmatic solutions attract some criticism from other sectors that can make it difficult to roll out these things. So I was just interested to hear if there was any kind of feedback out there about that. It's good to hear that people are being pragmatic about this one.
Yeah, good. We haven't yet. Look, there is a potential for decorative poles, but the challenge is trying to colour match and trying to. So we've avoided going down that path at this point. Daniel, sorry. Oh, we can't hear you, Daniel. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I was just listening in and forgot about the mic, but that's a good segue into my question, which was basically about extending the life of poles. In our recent bulk upgrades project, I was basically.
Sorry, Daniel, you're just a bit faint. Are you able to speak a bit louder, or?
Yeah, it's still not coming through. Maybe
that's better.
Yeah. In a recent bulk upgrade project, I was basically alerted to the fact that if we do have to investigate a pole or a light and lower a pole, Powercor maintenance protocol basically dictates that pole is effectively going to be written off. So I was just thinking in terms of extending the life of poles, can we work with you and figure out what procedures might need to be looked at, or what methods we can look at in those maintenance sort of processes to make it so that we can basically put a pole back up effectively if it's not at end of life. Because obviously, poles are out in the field for what, like 30 years, I'm assuming. So I'm assuming we can get a bit more out of them if they're just coming down after like 12 months or something.
Yes, there's a I think are you speaking about decorative poles? Sorry, Daniel.
I mean, we were upgrading decorative poles, but I was pretty much told that was the standard practice. If a pole had to be looked at and had to be lowered to investigate it, it would be written off.
Right. If we take a pole off, it's often by the time you've taken it off, it's probably cheaper to put it back on, to put a new one back on. I'm not sure I'm not quite sure of the context. Sorry, and I probably I can take it offline. But what we have been able to work, we're working with councils. That is, often there's a collar around some of the decorative poles that's there for decorative. It's not a mechanical requirement of the pole. It's an aesthetic part of the pole, and that collar is replaceable. And so we've worked with councils to have that collar removed and put a new and enable councils to put the new collar on, and that lengthens the life of that pole. So it means that the pole can stay in the ground, and the collar comes off, new collar goes on, and we move on. I know that up in Bendigo there's some shrouds that go around the base of the poles. That again, we've worked with council to try and not remove the poles. We try to keep the poles in situ for as long as we possibly can.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Like, avoiding disruption would be the key, and having it component based would be ideal. But if the pole's got to be lowered, probably just want to figure out a way to lower it safely.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by lowered. Is it you're actually doing works in that area, or is it?
Yeah, for this round specifically with decorative lights here, we had to lower a whole section of road just to change.
Oh, you had to lower the road base.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm happy to take it offline, and I can see if I can help you.
Yep.
Is there anyone else that has any more questions? Part of the consultation for our price reset is getting feedback from councils. Really encourage you to take on board some of the discussion points today, or if you've got different other items you want to discuss, please send it back through that email address that's on the screen. It was also in the presentation as well. That helps us take your requirements into consideration, and so that we can deliver the best public lighting service that we can. Thank you, and I appreciate your patience with my IT skills. All right, see you, everybody.
Oh, thanks, Noel.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Noel.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thanks. Thanks very much.